think Brother Sam summed it up very well. And I just want to carry on from where he left off and about the recent events that I'm sure all of us have become aware of and how it affects us as well as the others. Like so many of us were shocked about the denial of human rights at the Mexican-American border. When those seeking protection, they were stopped, arrested, and had their children taken away. I wasn't really surprised. When children were put into cages and they were unable to speak to their parents, I was not surprised when parents were denied access to their children. And actually, I wasn't surprised when the parents were deported without their children, without any plan from the United States government about how these children would be reunited with their parents. I was at the border of San Diego and Mexico in 2015. I was escorting 6 asylum seekers, including a child, hopefully to get across into San Diego. Finally, about 11 o'clock, we entered. We came upon the border. We had all of our documents in process, and I had actually alerted Department of Homeland Security about the legality of me carrying on this task of those people being allowed asylum, at least submitting their papers for asylum. I was concerned about my clients' rights, of course, and having their potential rights violated. Have a little bit of water. So when we exited the automobile, we all came out. Thank you. Immediately, we were put into handcuffs. I was a representative, but I was put into handcuffs too. I showed them. I didn't perceive any problem with my situation. I had an American passport, which I showed them. I had an American passport card. I had a border entry card. I had my driver's license and a Costco card. Now, what's more American than a Costco card, right? So after 5 or 6 hours, I was still handcuffed. Actually, I was the only one handcuffed. Finally, I was escorted into a very small room, and with 3 other agents, female agents, and they said, "Why did you bring those people across the border?" I said, "Because they had a right to be here." She said, "No, they didn't." While we were en route to this little room, she pushed me, I was kicked, and finally when we got inside the room, she snatched off my scarf when I was still handcuffed. Unfortunately, the pin got jammed into her finger, and she went ballistic. She took my hair and she jammed my head into the cement wall twice. Afterwards, I could barely think. Complete confusion. And I was in a haze. When I left the facility, I went to a medical clinic where they diagnosed me with traumatic brain injury, and I think that is major concussion. Later, I thought, if my rights could be violated so easily without protections, how do immigrants from Guatemala, Honduras, Colombia, Syria, or Iraq, how do these people ever get through? And who do they have to represent their interests? Can I have those 2 boards? Yeah. One of the people that have recently been taken into custody was given this. This is an arrest for his warrant, okay? It tells that he has basically broken the law and that he's supposed to appear in a court of law. This is the so-called criminal that the warrant relates to. His name is Emmett. He's 3 years old. Why a warrant would be issued for his arrest is beyond me. This is just to show you how far the administration has gone to usurp the rights of immigrants that come across this border seeking safety. Now, we have so many people that have met the same fate as Emmett. It doesn't matter whether they're 3, they're 10, they're 20, we have undocumented children. All these people have needs to be addressed. Unfortunately, there's not enough within our organization, even with all the nonprofit organizations, to handle these problems, because basically the Trump administration has cut funding for all of the grants that used to be given. We never really applied for these grants, but just to show you, the people that need these resources the greatest have no avenue to receive help. You go to one of these immigrants, and they will tell you about their experience. They go to a legal firm. They're going to be charged $20,000 a retainer fee. Where are they going to get this kind of money? So our deal with the Department of Justice is to charge minimal fees, a portion of the fee, so the way we are able to help these people. Even before this incident, Massive Immigrant Justice Center has been considerably blessed. In 10 years, we have never held one fundraiser, and we do charge this minimal fee. We have survived our existence because we have had help from the greatest source of all. Our clients come from South America, the Middle East, and Africa. We are contacted from immigrants seeking help across the United States. We travel to represent them in immigration, asylum hearings, all across America, and inside immigration courts, those who have been put into removal proceedings. Female victims of violence have been given shelter and treatment for post-traumatic stress syndrome, and after their treatment is under control, we managed to get them tuition so that they can attend community college at a low fee and to be trained to be able to be self-supported after a while. When we opened our doors, most of our clients were Middle Easterners and most were Muslims. Now the majority, or 60% of our clients, were from Latin America. Strangely enough, we have never advertised. I have no idea how people from Montana or Fargo, North Dakota find us. What I do know is that the life of an immigrant, after all is said and done, is not made up of the social propaganda that we hear from the administration. People at the border are not rapists, and Muslim immigrants are not terrorists. And just like warrants should be not delivered upon innocent women that come across the desert with their children because they are escaping some of the worst torment on the face of the earth. So most of the time, I've learned to look at things from a narrow lens than a broad lens. Because bigots look at things from a broad lens. Bigots think of terms in big categories, where they encourage injustice, make up falsehoods against the innocent, and stand up against equal rights for everyone. However, in modern society, we judge the decency of a society is the quality of its justice system. In a true democracy, we put criminals behind bars, not immigrants seeking relief from justice. Now, it's expected and it's normal that we as a society must trust the laws of the society to protect us. But sometimes we must stand up against unjust laws and work to change them. Just laws do not lead to less civil rights. In 2015, Mass Justice Center, together with Latin American Coalition and the Vietnamese Association of Charlotte, filed a complaint with the Department of Justice against the state of North Carolina, the North Carolina Judicial Branch, and the administrative offices for violating Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. Department of Justice determined after their investigation that the state of North Carolina was denying the rights of those people that didn't understand what they were signing. You would be surprised how many people were told to sign papers that were basically saying that they were guilty of the charges that had been set forth against them, that they were agreeing to deportation. They never had any idea about what they were signing. And we became outraged. So we gathered together with these two other groups. We filed a complaint and we won. As a result, North Carolina is required by law to give access to an interpreter on every level of the Justice Center, whether it's immigration courts, which already had them, but also Superior Court, even in foreclosure court, in juvenile court. They are allowed to have an interpreter even as the police are questioning them. If they don't, then something is wrong with the system. And they have the right to ask for an attorney to make sure their rights are put into place. MAS has continued to meet, cooperate, and protect immigrants with other nonprofit organizations by offering sanctuary services to those without places to go, those who have no money, no place for their children to sleep at night. We joined other groups who are different from each other in so many ways: race, religion, backgrounds, and experience. We still give each other strength. It is the kind of strength that created a place for family victims recovering from war crimes. Throughout this process, we've learned that we are more empowered by working together than by working apart. What does a synagogue, a masjid, and mass immigrant justice have in common? We provide safety and sanctuary. We go beyond religious places and spaces of activism. Together, we've created sanctuary places that give shelter and protection to immigrants subjected to deportation by ICE. We've also managed to enlist the help of some agents of ICE who give us a fair warning when deportation is imminent. These people who have come from some of the most violent places in the world are struggling just to remain here until they are afforded the right to make a case for their humanitarian asylum. They have no criminal records, and they are not violent. MAS believes that the character and desires of people seeking freedom do not belong in any of those politically, racially charged categories in which the poor, the people of color, children of the undocumented are usually placed in very horrible labels, which accuse them of so many things. that are not true. And it is foolish and an insulting waste of time for the current administration to try to label these people that way. Today, faced with fracturing impact of immigration crisis, the marketing of threats of violence by immigrants and rising tension, the Trump administration has sought to impose a different kind of belonging in this society through its policies of exclusion and bordering. In order for the United States to achieve its purpose of completing its democracy, Islamic communities must join the movement. They must join the movement to confront the challenges of nationalism, separatism, and racism. If a bigot wants to pollute the concept of equality, we have to be there to counter his concept of inequality. You all have heard about the blue wave from the last election. Don't just ride it, but join it. Be a part of it. Contribute to it. Be a part of the change that places Muslims in strategic places to stand up for the rights of Muslims and all people in society that are oppressed by a system that has denied them their voice. Do you want to belong? I want to belong. We all need to feel connected. One of the reasons we come to conventions like this is to feel connected. The sense of belonging is a fundamental need of every human being. Yet nearly in every part of the country, people of color, or because of their religion, remain victims of hostility, humiliation, and deprivation, while white citizens are not forced to tolerate the same type of treatment. Americans have grown increasingly aware that discrimination must stop, not only because it is legally insupportable, economically wasteful, but socially destructive. Most of all, it is because it is morally wrong. Look what happened in Virginia a couple of years ago, where the right decided to protest, to cause violence, and it resulted in the harm of many people and the death of a young woman. A committed and decisive Muslim American political mission whose agenda is freedom and equality can realistically change the lives of millions. It is within our ability to do so. The federal government has no moral choice but to listen, but you have to speak up first. If anyone doubts such a possibility, remember Islam began with one prophet, 5 people. Today there are more than 2 billion, or about 28.1% of the world population are Muslims. Muslims are expected to grow more than twice as fast as the overall population beyond 2060. What began as 1 grew into 6, and now it is more than 2 billion. Who can deny our abilities if we believe and we put forth the type of effort, not that we're asked to, but we are demanded to do by our belief in the Book of Allah and by his order to enjoin what is good and forbid what is evil. Our program can easily become a part of your program. If any of you want to know about giving sanctuary, if any of you want to help the people that are suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome, if any of you care about those children remaining in cages that suffer from sickness, from cold, that are not fed adequately, if any of you care about the 2 children that have recently died in custody of Border Patrol, it's time to act. It's time to come together, to become a part. For any of you that belong to Islamic communities, go to your leaders, go to your shures, and request a program to be built based upon the freedom of others. And inshallah, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will succeed. Thank you.